The final insult. The galaxy had always dismissed humanity. For centuries, they were seen as a young and reckless race, an insignificant footnote in the vast history of the stars. Other species had risen and fallen long before humans ever dreamed of reaching the heavens. The great empires that ruled the galactic stage had looked down upon them, treating them as a temporary anomaly, one that would either fade away or fall in line. The Galactic Council had tolerated humanity's presence, but never truly accepted them. Humanity's technology was considered primitive. Their ships were outdated compared to the vast fleets of the older races. Their colonies were small, scattered across the fringes of explored space, like insects crawling at the edges of something far greater than themselves. But humans were stubborn. They refused to accept the place the galaxy had carved out for them. They fought for every inch of land, every trade deal, every diplomatic meeting. They adapted, they learned, and most dangerously, they remembered. And then came the insult, the moment that would set everything in motion. Ambassador Elias Carter stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, facing representatives from a dozen powerful species. The air was thick with tension. The council chamber, a sprawling dome of polished black stone, echoed with whispered conversations and barely concealed laughter. Carter had fought for years to earn this meeting, to plead for humanity's right to stand as equals. He had come prepared, his speech meticulously crafted, his arguments flawless. He spoke of trade, of mutual benefit, of the future they could build together. And then, Supreme Chancellor Ralvosh of the Vaktar Empire, one of the oldest and most feared species in the galaxy, leaned forward, his reptilian lips curling into a smirk. "You humans talk too much," Ralvosh sneered. "Always pleading, always begging. Do you think we do not see what you are? You are nothing but children playing with fire, dreaming of a place among the gods." The chamber erupted in laughter. Some council members chuckled quietly. Others let out open, guttural howls of amusement. Carter's face remained calm, but inside, something broke. The room was filled with some of the most powerful beings in the known universe, and they were laughing at humanity, at everything they had built, at everything they had suffered for. And then Ralvosh delivered the final blow. "You speak of progress," the Vaktar continued, his voice dripping with contempt. "But what have you truly accomplished? You scurry around the edges of civilization, pretending to be something more. The only reason we allow you to exist is that you are amusing. Like pets, you humans serve a purpose, entertainment, nothing more." Silence fell over the room. For the first time, the laughter stopped, not because they had realized the insult had gone too far, but because they knew it hadn't. They were waiting to see how the human would react. Elias Carter took a slow breath, his fingers clenched into a fist at his side. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to lash out, to say something that would shatter the illusion of humanity's weakness. But he didn't. Instead, he smiled. A small, cold smile. He nodded once, turned on his heel, and walked out of the chamber without another word. It was not defeat. It was the beginning of something far worse. The gathering storm. The insult spread like wildfire. Within hours, every human colony, every station, every fleet had heard what had happened in the Grand Hall. The transmission was played over and over again, a symbol of the galaxy's contempt for them. At first, there was disbelief. Then came the anger. And beneath it all, something colder. A quiet, simmering rage that had been building for centuries. For too long, humanity had played by the rules. They had endured the condescension, the broken deals, the stolen resources, the backhanded diplomacy. They had fought wars only to be treated as an afterthought. They had blood suffered and struggled for every step forward, only to be shoved 2 steps back. No more. The United Human Coalition convened in secret, away from the eyes of the Council. The most brilliant minds, the most seasoned generals, the most ruthless strategists, all of them gathered in the underground chambers of Terra Prime, Earth's most fortified city. They did not meet to discuss peace. They met to decide how to make the galaxy regret ever underestimating them. The unseen war begins. In the darkness of space, far beyond the reach of the Council's sensors, humanity had been preparing. They had been watching, studying, learning. The galaxy saw them as weak, but they had no idea what was happening behind closed doors. For years, humanity had been perfecting something new, something that would change the course of history. A weapon. Not just one, but many. Ships designed with technology that no other species had ever dreamed of. Engines that could move faster than any recorded vessel. Shields that could absorb energy and redirect it. Weapons that could tear through the strongest armor with a single strike. The Council believed that humanity was weak because they had never seen them fight a war on their own terms. That mistake would cost them everything. As the final preparations were made, as the human fleet moved into position, the leaders of the coalition sent a single message across every frequency, every communication channel in the galaxy. We are done begging. It was not a declaration of war. It was a promise. And for the first time in history, the galaxy knew fear. The moment the galaxy stopped laughing, the stars had never looked so still. From the bridge of the UHC Vanguard, Admiral James Calloway stood in silence, watching the void stretch endlessly before him. Earth was a distant memory now, lost behind the veil of hyperspace. Around him, thousands of ships drifted in formation, silent shadows preparing for a storm no one in the galaxy was ready for. For the first time in history, humanity was done playing by the rules. The message had been sent. We are done begging. It was a simple statement. 5 words that shattered the illusion of human weakness. 5 words that turned quiet discussions in the halls of alien empires into frantic emergency meetings. 5 words that sent entire star systems into a frenzy of speculation and fear. And yet, the galaxy still didn't understand. The old empires saw humanity's rage as nothing more than empty noise, a tantrum thrown by a species that had finally reached the limits of its ambition. They believed it would pass. That, like before, humanity would swallow its pride and return to the negotiating table with lowered heads and desperate hands. But this time, there would be no apologies, no negotiations, no second chances. The Council had spent centuries treating humanity like an inconvenience, a pest, a minor species that was tolerated only because it was amusing to watch them struggle. Now, they were about to learn just how dangerous a species could become when it had nothing left to lose. The gathering storm. Across the galaxy, the United Human Coalition moved in silence. They did not broadcast their movements. They did not issue threats. They did not demand war. Instead, they did something far more terrifying. They waited. For weeks, human fleets stationed themselves along the edges of galactic space, positioning themselves with careful precision. Their ships did not cross borders. They did not fire upon alien vessels. They simply existed, watching, waiting, listening. The Council didn't know what to make of it. The Carry, one of the most war-hardened species in the galaxy, saw it as a bluff. The humans are not warriors, their war minister scoffed in a private council meeting. They do not understand what it means to wage true war. They posture, they bark, but they will never bite. Let them sit in the dark. They will realize their mistakes soon enough. The Yar, still licking their wounds from past conflicts, saw it as an opportunity. They wish to challenge us, snarled Grand Marshal Teruk, his mandibles twitching in amusement. Then let them come. We will grind their bones into the dust of forgotten history. The Paravians, ever the diplomats, urged restraint. Humanity has never acted without reason. Their chancellor warned, "We have pushed them for too long. If they are silent now, it is because they are planning something far worse than words." But the warnings were ignored. For centuries, the galaxy had dismissed humanity's warnings. Why would this time be any different? The first strike. No one saw it coming. The first attack did not come from battleships or planetary bombardments. It did not begin with the roar of cannons or the flash of energy weapons. It began with vanishing fleets. Across the outer rim, ships from the Carry and Yar empires began to disappear without a trace. One moment, entire squadrons were reporting in as normal. The next, their signals vanished. No distress calls, no emergency beacons, no wreckage, nothing. At first, the Council dismissed it as a fluke, pirates, technical failures, hyperspace anomalies. But then it happened again, and again, and again. Entire war fleets, dozens of ships at a time, erased from existence as if they had never been there at all. Panic spread like wildfire. The Council scrambled to respond, deploying their finest intelligence officers to investigate. But no matter how deep they dug, no matter how many resources they poured into the mystery, they found nothing. Nothing except whispers. Whispers of dark ships seen moving in the void. Whispers of silent weapons that left no wreckage behind. Whispers of a force that did not fight wars. It erased them. Then came the first message. It was short, cold, calculated. A single transmission sent to every major power in the galaxy. You have mocked us for too long. You have taken from us for too long. You have underestimated us for too long. This is your warning. There will not be another. The Council was stunned. Humanity had not just struck first. They had done it without firing a single visible shot. They had ripped fleets apart without ever being seen. The galaxy had always believed that war was fought with armies, with massive fleets clashing in great, glorious battles. Humanity had just introduced them to a different kind of war. A war fought in the shadows. A war where your enemy was already inside your walls before you even knew you were at war. The response. The Council's response was swift and desperate. The Carry and Yar launched full-scale fleet movements, sending thousands of warships toward the last known locations of the missing fleets. They were prepared for battle, expecting to face the full force of humanity's armada. They found nothing. Every planet, every system they searched was empty, silent, as if humanity had never been there at all. But as the fleets pressed deeper into the void, their sensors began picking up strange anomalies. Ghost signals, distorted echoes, shadows that moved where nothing should be. And then, without warning, the Vector's 7th Fleet, one of the most powerful armadas in the galaxy, vanished in less than an hour. A fleet of 120 warships. Gone. Their last transmission was nothing but static. Panic turned into fear. The Council had prepared for war, but they had not prepared for this. They had expected battle lines, sieges, invasions. What they got was silence and shadows. For the first time in history, the Council realized the truth. They were not fighting an enemy that wanted to conquer. They were fighting an enemy that had already won before the first shot was fired. And then came the second message, broadcast across every galactic channel, heard by every species in every corner of the universe. This is no longer a request. You will respect us, or you will vanish. The galaxy stopped laughing, and humanity prepared for what came next. The day the stars went dark. The universe had never known silence like this before. For centuries, the galactic superpowers had ruled with an unchallenged grip. They had shaped history, dictated the fate of lesser species, and determined who thrived and who perished. They had played gods over the cosmos, assuming that their dominion would last forever. But forever had never met humanity. Now, for the first time in galactic history, the ones who had always dictated the rules of war, diplomacy, and power found themselves staring into the abyss of uncertainty. Humanity had sent two messages. One had been a warning. The second was a promise. No one was laughing anymore. The shadows move. The Council's forces were unraveling faster than anyone could have predicted. Entire battle groups, fleets once thought invincible, were vanishing without explanation. Strategic planets, heavily fortified and monitored, suddenly went dark, their communication lines severed. Attempts to contact their defense forces resulted in nothing but static. No alarms, no distress calls, no debris fields to analyze. Just silence. It was a silence that spread through the halls of power like a growing sickness. Fear took root in the hearts of those who had once viewed humans as mere insects to be swatted away. The supreme leaders of the Vaktar, Yar, and Kari empires, the most dominant species in the galaxy, found themselves facing a terrifying truth. They had underestimated humanity not just in strength, but in intelligence. They had expected humans to lash out like cornered beasts, fighting with desperation and recklessness. Instead, humanity had proven to be calculating, patient, and most of all, merciless. It wasn't just war. It was an extermination campaign. One that left no bodies, no broken ships, and no survivors. The breaking point. The Galactic Council scrambled to assemble what remained of their fleets. The Kari, ever arrogant, refused to acknowledge the gravity of the situation. "This is psychological warfare," growled Supreme Admiral Varric, slamming a clawed fist onto the war table. His golden scales gleamed under the dim tactical lights, his nostrils flaring. "They are using deception to make us fearful. The humans are not strong enough to challenge us directly." Chancellor Voris of the Paravian Syndicate, a species known for their wisdom and diplomacy, exchanged uneasy glances with her advisors. Unlike the war-hungry Kari, the Paravians understood what was happening. "This is not deception," she said, her voice calm but filled with quiet dread. "This is control. The humans are dictating the battlefield, the terms of engagement, and the way this war is fought. We are no longer in command." The room fell into tense silence. Then the war monitors began flashing red. Operation Silent Requiem begins. Across the galaxy, humanity's final move began. First came the communications blackouts. Every major hub of interstellar transmissions went dark in unison. Messages were lost mid-transmission. Live broadcasts cut off mid-sentence. The neural link networks used by high-ranking officials to communicate over long distances collapsed without warning. It was as if the stars themselves had been swallowed whole. Then came the infrastructure failures. Orbital stations powered down. Trade routes that relied on automated navigation systems found themselves blind, causing cargo fleets to drift helplessly in deep space. Power grids flickered, then failed entirely, leaving entire planets in cold darkness. Entire economies, built over thousands of years, began crumbling in a matter of hours. And then came the warships. Human fleets that had remained unseen for weeks appeared from the black void, materializing in key star systems without warning. They did not come as invaders. They came as executioners. The fall of Solera Prime. The first major target was Solera Prime, one of the oldest colonies in the Kari Empire. It was a world that had never known war, its sky dominated by towering spires of crystal-like architecture, its people having lived in luxury and prosperity for thousands of years. The Kari High Command had assumed it was untouchable. They were wrong. The UHC Iron Horizon, a human dreadnought that dwarfed any warship ever built before, entered orbit over Solera Prime with eerie silence. No energy signatures, no broadcasts, no threats. Then, one by one, the planetary defense grids fell offline. Missile silos, laser turrets, and kinetic barriers, all gone in an instant, as if they had never existed. The Kari attempted to scramble their planetary fleet, launching hundreds of warships in a desperate attempt to intercept the human forces. They never had a chance. The Iron Horizon unleashed a single weapon. Not a missile, not a laser beam, not a plasma charge. It was something new, something unstoppable. A weapon that did not destroy ships or buildings, but ripped apart reality itself. The void imploded. Every Kari warship in orbit was gone in an instant, erased as if they had never been there. No debris, no explosions, just nothing. Panic erupted across the planet. Civilians and soldiers alike screamed into radios that no longer worked. Escape ships tried to flee, only to vanish the moment they left the atmosphere. The Iron Horizon never fired a second shot. It didn't need to. Celera Prime was already lost. The last stand of the Council. News of Celera Prime's fall sent the Galactic Council into chaos. "We must negotiate," the Paravians pleaded. "We must end this madness before it is too late." "There will be no negotiations," the Yar growled, their pride still blinding them to the reality of their impending doom. "We will fight until our last breath." But that was exactly what humanity wanted. They did not seek peace. They sought vengeance. And as the Council continued to argue, to scramble for solutions, to prepare for a war they had already lost, humanity struck again. This time, they didn't just target military fleets. They targeted entire planets. One after another, Council-controlled worlds began falling into complete silence. Not through fire, not through invasion, but through absence. Worlds once filled with bustling cities and sprawling megastructures became empty husks overnight. No destruction, no bloodshed, just gone. The galaxy had once believed that war meant destruction. But humanity had given them something far worse. Erasure. The choice. In the final hours of the Galactic Council, the remaining empires faced a choice. Would they continue to fight? Or would they surrender to the species they had mocked, dismissed, and ridiculed for so long? One by one, the great empires of the galaxy fell to their knees, not because they were defeated, but because they had finally understood. The humans had never been inferior. They had never been weak. They had been waiting. And now, the waiting was over. The end of the old order. The galaxy had never known defeat like this. For thousands of years, the great empires had ruled the stars with absolute confidence. They had crushed rebellions, enslaved weaker species, and shaped the course of history as they saw fit. They had never feared war, because war had always been fought on their terms. Until now, humanity had rewritten the rules. No grand battles, no drawn-out conflicts, no sieges or planetary invasions, only silence. A terrifying, all-consuming silence as entire fleets, worlds, and civilizations vanished without warning. And now, the remaining powers of the Galactic Council faced an undeniable truth. The old order was dead, and humanity had taken its place. The fall of the Yar Dominion. The Yar had been one of the fiercest warrior species in the known universe. Their empire had survived for millennia, built on conquest, discipline, and unwavering belief in their superiority. Their war fleets had crushed rebellions with brutal efficiency. Their armies had conquered entire sectors with ease. But none of their strategies, none of their war doctrines, had prepared them for this. They had been one of the first to dismiss humanity as a serious threat. They had mocked them, used them, and sabotaged them whenever they could. And now, they were paying the price for their arrogance. The attack on Yarvesk Prime, the heart of the Yar Dominion, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It did not begin with an invasion. It began with a whisper. Across the planet, communications failed. Security grids shut down. Military networks collapsed. And then, the sky went dark. A massive shadow fell over Yarvesk Prime as an unknown object moved into orbit. The Yar military scrambled, launching ships to intercept, only to realize their weapons would not fire. Their targeting systems refused to lock onto the enemy. For the first time in history, the great warriors of the Yar found themselves completely helpless. Then, a message came through. This is your final moment. You will not die in battle. You will not have the honor of a last stand. You will simply disappear, like you were never here. The Yar did not understand at first. And then, the erasure began. Entire cities started vanishing, swallowed by an unseen force. Buildings, vehicles, people, everything simply ceased to exist. The Yar, who had once stood unshaken in the face of war, now screamed in terror. There were no explosions, no falling debris, no signs of destruction, only absence. By the time the Galactic Council received news of what had happened, the Yar Dominion no longer existed. Not a single trace of their civilization remained. Their fleets, their planets, their history, all gone. And as the Council watched in horror, they realized this was not conquest. This was retribution. The Carri's last attempt at war. The Carri Empire had been the most powerful military force in the galaxy before humanity rose. Their fleets stretched across thousands of systems. Their warriors were trained in combat from birth. They had ruled through fear, ensuring that no species ever dared to challenge them. Now, they were the last major empire left standing. And they were afraid. For the first time in their long history, the Carri did not know what to do. Their war fleets had been rendered useless against humanity's new technology. Their planetary defenses had proven meaningless. But unlike the Yar, they refused to vanish without a fight. Desperate, they launched one final attack. A fleet of over 10,000 Carri warships, the largest armada ever assembled, was sent to assault the human-controlled sectors. They did not expect victory. They did not expect survival. They only wanted to die fighting. But the humans had other plans. When the Carri fleet entered human-controlled space, they found something waiting for them. Something impossible. A structure the size of a planet. Something that had never been detected, never been reported, and never been seen before. At first, the Carri believed it was a new human colony, until they scanned its surface. It had no cities, no atmosphere, no life signs, only weaponry. A single message was broadcast across the fleet. Welcome to the last battlefield. Then, the station fired. A single beam of energy. One shot, and the entire Carri fleet ceased to exist. Their ships did not explode. They did not break apart. They simply ceased, like a switch had been flipped, like they had never been there at all. Back on the Carri homeworld, their high command watched the data feed in stunned silence. Their entire military power gone in an instant. They had spent thousands of years building the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and humanity had destroyed it in one shot. With nothing left to fight for, nothing left to defend, the Carri surrendered unconditionally. And just like that, the last great empire of the old order fell. The birth of the new age. With the Yar and Carri empires gone, the Galactic Council, what remained of it, faced an unavoidable truth. They were no longer in control. Humanity had not just won. They had taken everything. The Paravians, the last of the old powers who had once ruled through diplomacy, chose to surrender peacefully. They offered their knowledge, their technology, and their influence to humanity, not as equals, but as servants to a new order. Across the galaxy, the message was clear. The old empires had spent thousands of years deciding who was worthy of power. Now, humanity was the one making that decision. And those who refused to accept it had already vanished. The final message. The last meeting of the Galactic Council was held in the ruins of their once great capital. Humanity's leader, Chancellor Elias Carter, stood before the remaining representatives, the last survivors of an era that no longer existed. His words were simple. We were never your equals. We were always your betters. You just refused to see it. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving the broken remains of the council behind. And in that moment, the galaxy understood. This was no longer their galaxy. It belonged to humanity now, and there was nothing they could do to change that.